Hi, this is Heather Picken, host of the Fearless and Fabulous Female Masterclass. You're going to learn in 90 days or less how to take your business to the next level. You want to go to the next level, you've got to align your mind to your vision and you got to take action. So I want you to take notes, and I also want you to consider to upgrade to the Fearless and Fabulous bundle. What that is experts paid products given to you for only $97. This is important because it's supporting a cause called She Should Run. And that is about getting 250,000 women running for office by 2030. I want you to be a fearless woman. Stand in your power and know what you stand for. I hope you enjoy this masterclass. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fearless Entrepreneur Female Summit with my next guest. And I'm going to jump right into it. I want to welcome Kim Doyal to this next session. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She's known as the WordPress Chick and has been making her living full-time online for the last 10 years. She's a published author, movie producer, artist, and podcaster. She teaches content marketing and strategy through multiple platforms and is a prolific creator. Kim's motto is do business as you can do. Kim's online journey has led to shifting her business to a personal brand as a co-founder of the SaaS company and lead surveys. So Kim, welcome. Thank you so much for being my expert today.
Thanks for having me, Heather. I'm totally excited to be here.
Yeah. And, today we're going to be talking about, everything is content. So I'm really excited to be talking about, understanding what you mean everything is content and how women can apply it to their business right now. My thing is how we can apply it in 30, 60 or 90 days, because, to me, if we're setting smaller goals, it's easier to start getting the traction, and then we start getting the momentum and we feel excited about our business. So let's talk about content. What exactly is content?
It's funny. I actually just pre-recorded a book intro for somebody yesterday about what is content marketing. And the funny thing with it is that we've been consuming it our whole lives, right? Like you go back and you think about when you were a kid getting the Christmas catalog content, right? Or movie trailers. That's one of my favorite pieces of content. I'm a total movie geek. Yes. And the point of it, of course, is to tease you, get snippets, and it evokes an emotion in you because now you want to go see the whole movie, right? So content is storytelling, teaching, sharing. That's all it is. And in the online space, I did this to myself for a long time where I was like, oh, I got to do keyword research. I need to SEO this. I need to optimize it. And then nobody wants to do it. I hate doing keyword research, right? And so it's one of those things that we get in the way. And then, of course, we're also judging ourselves internally based on what we see externally, right? So you may see somebody else doing a podcast or video or content, not seeing the 10 years behind the practice that they did this. So, I shifted to this everything is content model. Actually, after having done the whole high ticket mastermind, all that stuff, I've been there, done that. I've done the expensive courses, the $47 courses. And I was like, you know what? I just got to share the journey. I am a Gary Vee fan, and it's kind of that document, don't create. And as soon as I started doing that and practicing, I became a student of what I was talking about. I just focused on mastery of doing a daily email and creating content. My business exploded, and I would probably back it up to the podcast. I launched a podcast about 5 years ago just to have more fun, right? I built this web agency. I'm not a developer, so I hired people. I had an outsourcing company. I was like, this is not what I want to do. And it was really about having more fun in my business. I'd always been a huge audiophile, listened to stuff. Like I had cassette tapes in the car, like actual tapes way back when, and so it was listening to this stuff. And then I realized just go have fun. And I got more validation from the podcast than any other content I'd created.
Wow, that's interesting, because I think a lot of times people get intimidated. What should I put out there? But you're kind of saying, listen, go with what you know. Don't compare yourself. I'm a big believer in, don't compare yourself to anyone else out there, because you're unique, and you've got to find a way to put if we're talking about content, find a way to put your content out there that converts, right?
Yeah. And the whole thing is today, content marketing isn't separate from marketing. Content is marketing. And it's actually easier today because there's so much competition. So it's almost like the only differentiating factor we have is ourselves, right? So that's where I talk about the storytelling. And I had started this daily email, and it was strictly, I mean, and Heather, I was like a 1 email a month person. I was really like, oh, I don't want to bug people. It was ridiculous. So I was like, you know what? People are going to unsubscribe. They're going to like it or they're not, but I want to practice telling a story, twisting it into what an offer. It could have just been a piece of content, could have been an affiliate offer, a course, a podcast episode, but I was committed to practicing. I had a few people unsubscribe, and then I started getting responses, right? And then I realized, wow, everything is content. Like, here's an example. I was in my office one morning and I hear this huge crash on the stairs, and my son is 17. He's coming up the stairs with his breakfast and he drops it and he's like, I knew I was going to do that. I kept telling myself, don't drop your breakfast, don't drop your breakfast. And I thought, how often do we do that in our business, right? I'm going to launch this. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to read this. So I tell the story of that. And then I shifted it into a blog post or a podcast episode that was relative to mindset, right? And all this, and people just respond back constantly. I get more feedback from the personal stories as it relates to my business. I mean, not like, oh, I'm having a green juice. I'll put that on Instagram maybe, but It's like, nobody wants to read content about that. So that's all you want. People want to relate to you. And so when you share the crap, they're super excited for the wins. Do you know what I mean?
I love that. And I definitely agree. Yeah. That's actually one of the things that I do is I send out a daily email of just kind of what's going on and that sort of thing. And I have noticed a difference. So, women that are watching this right now, one of the tips that they can use in the format of, using this content strategy is sending out an email talking about their stuff, because I think now more than ever, people are getting turned off by the salesy or marketing emails that are all about buying, right? Would you agree?
Right. Absolutely. And the whole piece of it is it's just, they want to know you. And the other thing is, I think there's a fear that if you tell here's a good example. So for lead surveys, I did this pre-sale webinar last summer. It was a complete cluster, right? I'm like, I'm going to live stream and I'm not going to use a webinar platform. It's going to be great. No, it wasn't. It failed. It choked. It was just, we still sold a few because I have an audience, but it was like, I took the 2 hours in the afternoon. I cried. I took a nap. I'm like, you're not looking at this webinar today. And then the next day, I took 2 hours with a friend and I ripped it apart. And then I spent a month rebuilding the webinar. But I told the story, I'm like, you guys, it happens to all of us. And,
right.
Not like I'm up here, but it's like, I've been doing tech for a while now. And it sucked and it crashed and I had to pick myself up. And so those stories make you relatable. And I think people are afraid to share God, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Or I made an offer, nobody bought, but being honest about it makes people trust you.
It's so true. I love that element of just being real. And, no one is perfect. Always saying, you've got to fail your way to success, and you got to do it fast. So there's always a story. I know one of my stories, and we'll get into talking about stories, but one of my stories has always been, how I've been disempowered in areas from money to men, and especially having those toxic relationships. Every time I was in a toxic relationship, my money went down, my self-worth went down as well, and my doubt increased. And so I was getting into these stories and sharing them with women going, my life has been such a mess, but I've been able to turn it around by empowering myself. So let's talk about stories and vulnerability and is there a formula that you find that works? And what are some of the ways that they can share those stories or content? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, well, first, I totally believe the story's a strategy. End of the day, the story's a strategy. And here's an example, something tangible, right? So I had a call with somebody I have a content creation Facebook group. And so I hopped on a call with somebody and she's like, I don't know what to create. Most people are like, what do I do? And I'm like, first of all, let's look at everything you do. She's a web developer, but she's got all these beautiful graphics and social templates and stuff. And I said, just tell the story of every single thing you've created, right? But if you back it up, most people could say, why did I start my business? What drove me to do this? How did I come up with the name of my business? What's a favorite customer story? You have to baby step your way into the sharing, right? There was completely a time when I was like, I do glimpses, right? Now I'm like, oh, I fell down the stairs, literally, because I had to look at my phone to pick the podcast to walk the dogs, I was fine. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, So, but you have to baby step your way into those, and the raw, and there's also a difference between personal and private. And, I think there is this step back, do a gut check, you're going to know. So if you're not sure where to start with sort of the surface level, but personal. Get into what you were doing before you started your business. What made you make the pivot? And, here are the 5 things I'm most scared about. And just be honest. And you don't have to go raw and real and have a therapy session. I'm not against that, but you got to work your way up to it. So start with the basics, just why you're doing what you're doing, what drove you to start it, who's supporting you, who didn't, the biggest challenges you have, the biggest wins you've had so far. Anybody along their journey can start with those simple pieces and just tell it. And the truth is, you may be publishing to crickets for a while, because content is 20% creation and 80% promotion, right?
I love that, because I think a lot of times, we're putting work out there and like, who is anybody watching this or paying attention?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's always the consistency is the key. I'm all about breaking down formulas. So if you look at any successful female entrepreneur, what's their story? What did they do to get there? And then you could find a reoccurring theme and pattern, but yet a lot of times, we don't have a plan, right? And we're all over the place, and, like, oh, I don't know if this works, right? So, how long do you really think it takes to get your content out there, get noticed, and get some traction?
I'm not going to be ambiguous, but it depends on where you're at in your journey, right? So if you have some bit of an audience, and if you are prolific, and not to do a female male thing, but men don't care. They push their stuff 10 ways sideways. Some of it's obnoxious. Some of it is brilliant follow-up, right? So you have to decide that piece, but in terms of when do you start getting traction, I mean, it also depends on the platform. And you may have say you've got a brilliant post or a brilliant episode or video, but maybe the headline sucks. So go back and tweak it before you start reinventing stuff, and content is a long game, but it starts compounding, right? And so you just have to be consistent. And even like with the daily email, when I started, I was like, it was my almost daily email, but I was committed to I wasn't going to give up on it. And so there's that piece of self-awareness that comes in there. So you have to be willing to do it for a while. But just like anything else, especially with online businesses, it can't just be one piece, right? I don't believe, I'm not on Snapchat, not because I hate it or whatever. I just was like, I cannot wrap my head around one more thing right now. And I've got the bandwidth maybe now, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go all in on Instagram, or I'm going to double up here where I've got it. So with your content to get a result, I mean, the smartest thing to do would really take the time to create like one epic thing, whether you start with a video, you do a long post, like 1,500 to 2,000 words, you share it multiple times, you test the headlines, give it 30 to 60 days, make sure you've got multiple calls to action, but you can't give up on it, right? I mean, it's kind of like driving a car. You didn't hop in a car and take off, right? I mean, you practiced, you had to put in hours and hours of doing it. I don't know what it is with this space that people think it's going to happen overnight, so
right.
It will pay off. It will pay off. You just have to have patience, really.
It's so true. You got to find, we're talking about content. You've got to find that message that really resonates with you, resonates with your ideal audience, because, let's face it, we can't be all things to everyone when we're creating content, right?
Right. Well, you almost want to be polarizing. You know what I mean? It was like, and like I had given the example, and I'm actually, I've moved from the WordPress chick now. I'm just finalizing links and stuff. But I gave this example. There's like 2 communities. One is a Beaver Builder, Page Builder, and then I was a part of the Genesis community for a long time. Well, one felt very code snobs completely. Genesis, I felt that way. Beaver Builders, like cheers, like Norm, you want to go, everybody knows your name. There's just this feeling in this community. And I was really nervous about proclaiming that. And I wasn't nasty. I don't ever get into that kind of stuff, but I just said, I didn't feel welcome here, and I feel super welcome here. Massive validation. So many people, specifically females, jumped in and said, I felt that way too, or I felt this way too. People want you to kind of take a stance at a certain point. I think I lost my train of thought.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah. So to really kind of pick where you want to be and follow that, and be your own trailblazer for what you stand for.
Absolutely. And the other piece is like that personal, like and this was a huge validation for me, because I'll tell you what the other thing is, and I don't know about you, but I don't need another listicle with 7 top things you need to market, 5 plugins. It's like been there, done that. It's like, IBM circa 1960. It's like, we've seen this content forever. And so last year, part of my story, I was widowed in 2003. My kids were 6 and 2. And last year, the anniversary is in May. And it was like, so it was 14 years. And I woke up and it wasn't the first thing on my mind. And I was super grateful for that. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do an email and it was in loving memory and a personal message of hope. And it was just a positive, I'm grateful to be on the other side. It's been a hard road. Thanks for being on this journey with me, right? When you've told your story, you assume everybody knows it. Oh my gosh, Heather. So I got at least 30 email responses on a Sunday. And then I'm like, I'm going to post this as a blog post. It was the highest traffic day to my site in probably 3 years.
Wow.
And it was because, and it wasn't a woe is me. And I wasn't looking for sympathy, but my point was, you can get through it. Life happens, and it happens to all of us. We all have a different story that is raw and real and painful. And I couldn't have written that, 10 years ago, but so to be able to say to people, and they were like, oh, wow, wow, you had some challenges, and you've gotten through it. So it just goes to show you that people want to connect. It's like we're so far removed in our homes and offices and stuff, and it's very easy to just make that connection.
I love that. And just using that personal element, I think it does, like we were talking about before, it makes you unique. People connect with you. You can take that, repurpose it, and not to be afraid, like just putting yourself out there. I just feel that the world we're living in today is transparency. You cannot hide.
No, you can't.
And people will see through the BS if you're trying to create kind of a hypey email or content or look at me. I think we're all over that. Can we just agree that we're all over that? At least I am.
Well, no, I think we are all over it. But what happens, and I call this sort of the BS strategy, right? And I think people see, well, this person looks like they're doing X, Y, Z, and I know for myself, Heather, there was a long time where I was waiting for that one thing, that tipping thing. Like, what is the offer, the thing I'm going to do that's going to push me over the edge? And I had some big financial success, and then I bootstrapped the last year and a half getting the SaaS up. But it's like this BS strategy is this one thing. So I'm going to buy this $2,000 course. It's going to solve my problems. Meantime, there's no audience, there's no content, there's no foundation, there's no relationship down here. And so you got to get real and say to yourself, well, if I opened a restaurant, I wouldn't just snap my fingers, buy a franchise, and it's all going to succeed. No, you got to get in there. You got to show up. You got to do the work. And I know people are tired of that. Do the work and hustle, right? But you have to find that within yourself that says, I'm going to get up and I'm going to publish every day. Somebody may read it, somebody may not. I'm going to have you heard Gary Vee's $80 strategy?
I have not.
Okay, I'm going to be super quick about this.
Yeah.
It's an Instagram strategy, and he basically says, take the time. This is not about paying for ads, but take the time to find 90 accounts on Instagram that are relevant to your market, your hashtag, and you go and you give your 2 cents. And so you engage and you comment, right? And so I tested that like on a Sunday morning. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if this is a little bit different. So I searched the hashtag and I left a comment. Somebody said, oh, it's Sunday. Are you working today? Are you taking the day off? And so I just responded with a simple, doing a little work this morning. My brain is fried in the afternoon. She responded back and I got 7 new followers within 20 minutes of posting that comment. And I thought, okay, so the platforms have made it clear it's about real engagement.
I love that. And we're all talking about strategy that you can do in 30, 60, 90 days. So you've got an Instagram account, go ahead and test it out. I'm going to be testing it out as well. I think that's a great strategy. And there's a lot of times people get so overwhelmed, like, should I do Facebook Live? Should I, what should I be doing? Blogging and all of that. And, but I think, really what it comes down to, and I'd like to hear your opinion, is being consistent, finding something that you like, maybe 1 or 2 things, and then just test it, right? Be consistent and test it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And to address the 30, 60, 90, here's what I would do is I would write down 10 topics. And if you've ever listened to James Altucher, he's lists like, write 10 ideas every day. And it doesn't matter if it's for a new deodorant or how to tie your shoes. He doesn't care. He's like, practice the idea thing. Come up with 10 pieces of content. And whether you're going to start with a written post or a video and audio, but pick 10, make that your 30 days. I'm going to at least have this outlined and get 2 published, right? So you start with that. But I always tell people too, that the piece of the consistency, pick whichever type of content you will publish consistently, and then you add it, right? Like podcasting was easy for me. I clearly am chatty. I like to talk. I love audio content. Like I live in my earbuds. I'm the most antisocial shopper. You know what I mean? And so it was like, I knew that this was something that I could easily stick with and I would have fun doing. And so that I started there. And then I was very hesitant about live streaming because I was like, I can't stand people that get up and they're just like talking at you. I'm like, come on, like I'm going to tune you out. Give me something. Do you have a question? Do you have a bullet list? You know what I mean? There is this very ambiguous, look, I'm going live. Anyways, but by the time I did it, so I really waited and I focused on a community and I thought, I need to be able to show up and give value, right? So whatever you're going to do, pick the one thing that you will be consistent with. That's where you start.
I love that. No, it makes a lot of sense. I know for me, it's definitely video. And then I take my videos and I stream them as my podcast. So I love that. And not to be intimidated, because I think, sometimes women could get overwhelmed. There's a lot of things on their plate, especially if you have a family and you're trying to take care of everything. I think one of the things, the golden nuggets of information that you had mentioned is that, creating your list. I have a spreadsheet of creating some of the things that are important. And I just want to highlight that because it kind of gets all of that noise out of your head, the anxiety, and then you get clarity on that piece of paper and then you have your plan.
One of my favorite tools too, even though I have a regular podcast, is I love using Anchor. And if people haven't used that, the audio app, right? And so like yesterday I was driving to Target and I was listening to a podcast and I was like, somebody's talking about happiness. And I'm like, oh, my great aunt was like, you're always happy. I'm like, I choose to be. I work at it. I block out stuff. And I was like, that's a perfect anchor, like 2 to 3 minute, why do I see? And don't get me wrong, I'm not always happy, but when I'm not, I know, check out, girl, you got to get back in alignment. You got to get back. Something's off. You're tired. Something's off. And so, but it's something that I consciously choose to work at. I'm like, that's a great piece of content, right? And then of course you can share that audio transcribed video somewhere else. And you have to just test, because to me, the personal thoughts, opinions, ideas are so much easier to create than these in-depth research ones. And there will be a balance, because what happens is then you look at what's working, what's not. You look at your analytics, whatever you're going to look at, but you'll get feedback. You might get an email response, but you have to just really take some time with yourself and do a gut check and say, what is a type of message, content, who do I want to be through the world? Like, you are never going to see me dump dirty laundry on Facebook. I don't believe in that. It's like, one, I already feel like crap. Why get people on the bandwagon with me, right? Like, I don't need validation that this person was a jerk. I believe in vent, get it out. Okay, I've told the story, I'm done, right? And don't get me wrong, it's taken like 15 years of really conscious work to not do the bitching, but you have to find that within yourself. What is fun? What do I enjoy doing? And guess what? That is going to work. I can guarantee you.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, it all goes back to creating your content that you feel in alignment with, because if you're trying to be someone else, it's not going to convert. At least that is exactly what I've found. And I want to have fun. I don't want to be struggling and feeling like, now I got to do a Facebook Live.
Right. And do you find though too, I mean, there are definitely days, and this is sort of that Mel Robbins 5-second rule of, you're not always going to feel like doing it. Even though I love, like, I have not had as much fun in my business as I have in the last year and a half, even though I cut off all the service work, closed down the outsourcing, bootstrapping, but I'm like, my time is mine. It's like, I won the time lottery and it's like, this is awesome. Right. But there are days when I'm like, okay, I got to go edit this. I got to go do this. I got to, whatever it is. So there's going to be, like, we're human. It's
so true.
And I think part of that comes with, especially as women, the older you get a little bit wiser.
Yeah, it's so true. I will not do any video. If I'm having a bad day, you will not see me forcing myself doing a Facebook Live. I do it when I'm inspired, when I really feel like I have a golden nugget of wisdom that I want to put out there. Either something happened with myself or a client. It's just like, I feel like I need to get it out there, because just doing it to do it, I just feel it's a drag, and like, no, I am not going to put my energy out there. So I appreciate that you said that. And trust me, I am not 100% positive, every single day. I've got my down days, but I know how to flip the switch on it, which, it makes us, when people are watching us, are like, oh, wow, she's a human being. And therefore they're going to want to do business with you because, you're normal, right?
Right. And they'll get it. Like, they have empathy for you, and so you'll have empathy. And then there's like tricks and stuff. Like I still see my therapist. I'm completely What About Bob, right? That I found when I lost my husband, but she's kind of become this life mentor. And I was telling her about something where I catch the negative self-talk in my mind now at this point in my life. But what I do is I'm like, friggin' knock it off. This just doesn't work. Just don't. And she goes, how about if you said, okay, sweetie, leave this alone. Let's get back to work. And I was like, oh, that's a lot nicer.
Yeah, a little bit
right?
more.
But so there's times like I used to be able to sort of piss myself off motivation. It does not work. I just, and again, for me, it's just been life experience. The older I get, I'm like, I don't want to be like, I'm not. I mean, it's not who I am anymore. And so there is this gentle approach to creating content. And, the other thing, and let me ask you this, Heather, is like with the live streaming, when I see people who are just constantly on, I just stop watching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even tune in. I'm like, you're just talking to hear yourself talk again. You're just I get excited when I see somebody go live that maybe it's not 4 times a day. You know what I'm saying? And your audience, so you have to gauge that. But I do think just because something is working doesn't mean to double down and throw everything at it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because before I'm like, oh, I got to do one every day. And I'm like, no, I'm going to only do one when I feel inspired. That might be one a day. It might be a couple weeks. There's been weeks where I haven't done it, but I've done, at least with the content, I've done something that's been consistent, because it's just, to me, I'm a big believer in doing things that you're in alignment with. And if you're not, forget it. But yeah, just, putting on the camera so that you can speak without a message that's inspiring or people can learn from is not going to do anyone good.
No, or ask them a question. And the thing is, for women, this was the other thing. It's like, maybe not, I have a lot of hair. I hate freaking drying my hair. I get it straightened, right? So I was like, oh my, I don't have to commute. I don't iron my clothes anymore. I've done all that, So it's like, okay, now I got to get ready, right? If I'm going to do a video, I got to get ready. I'm a very low maintenance person. But I was like, Kim, this is for you. And then of course I get on and I have a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And it pumps my energy, right? So it's like, that's that, you may not feel it, or especially for women, it was like, oh, I'm not happy with how I look, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. The truth is, nobody cares. If you show up and genuinely bring it, however, like do the best you can with what you've got where you're at. Nobody cares. They feel that when you're like, I'm here and I'm just going all in. People appreciate it.
It's so true. And I appreciate that fact that you mentioned people don't care, because as women, we can get, in our own way, we can criticize ourselves, compare ourselves to other women. Oh, my hair doesn't look good. Oh, my roots are showing. I've got gray hairs. I've got bags under my, the list goes on.
My sun damage is catching up to me. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's been things where I watch back my Facebook. I'm like, oh my God, the lighting's and I'm like,
and I'm all, open your eyes, girl. Like, what are you doing?
And I'm just like, screw it. People are going to like me for me. I'm never going to be perfect. And that's okay, because I don't think people want someone that's absolutely perfect 100% of the time. So,
well, no, and I even think those days are over, right? So that's past transparency and authenticity. It's like nobody rolls out of bed looking great every day, right? And that was sort of my other mantra, besides everything is content, is just show up. That's all you got to do, is just show up. You can, be stressed about serious life stuff. And if you just go, okay, I'm going to go to the desk and I'm going to hit publish today, or I'm going to at least post something to Facebook, or I'm going to leave a comment. And that's the other thing for I don't know about you, but it's like anytime I'm in a funk, I'm going to give. Like if I can go make someone else feel better, it will make me feel better. You got to get out of your own head. But at the end of the day, it's like, just show up. Stop. I think, I believe in structure and plans. That's how I run my business. At the same time, I see people that have been planning for 10 years. I'm like, you never pulled the trigger, right? So there comes a point where all this peripheral planning, and you can own 50 bullet journals and this system and that system. But if you're never going to hit publish, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you own, what you've invested in. And there's also this thing in this space of, oh, well, when I invest in a mentor or a course, I'm taking myself seriously. It's like, nah, you take yourself seriously when you put yourself out there and you show up.
Yeah, it's so true. And it also, talking about mentors and investing in yourself, it's so important. I believe we can't do this alone. You got to get someone, you got to continually invest in your expertise, your knowledge, whatever that is, if you want to get to the next level of your success, right?
Absolutely. And that's another gut check though, too. It's funny because I've worked with some men and I've worked with some women, and I know myself, and I need people that believe in the stuff I'm doing, right? I don't think there's a one size fits all type of thing. So like the mastermind that I was in, it was very male centric, and I'm not bashing guys at all.
Right.
But it was one of those, like, everything was high ticket, 6 figures a month, high ticket, 6 figures a month. And it was like, and I kind of let the content side, I had my podcast going, but I was like coming up with offers just to have high ticket. And I was like, and I believe in all of those things when it's right for you. So
Right.
you have to take a level of self-responsibility when you hire a mentor also, and it's
So
to do
true.
that check. And, it's kind of like, all right, well, you bought this, you agreed to this. If you're not doing the work, it's not going to work. So there is a level of self-responsibility that you say, all right, trust me, I don't want to think about how much money I put into stuff that went nowhere. At the same time, it's like, well, I made that choice, whether I was super conscious of it or not. I know better now. So that's on me.
Yeah, it's so true. I think we all have been there investing thousands of dollars in our business. Some things worked, some things didn't. But I like what you said about getting the right mentor. I've had some amazing mentors. I've had some that even like, oh, don't do this. Like basically don't post things that are like unique to me. And I'm like, no way. And I'm like, I'm going to outgrow this person, which I did.
Completely.
And it's like, wait a minute, this goes totally against what I teach about finding your formula that makes you unique and sticking to it. Because if you're a cookie cutter and you're going, you're taking someone else's stuff and trying to put it on your website, it's just not going to, it's just not going to work. So I totally appreciate that. Well, Kim, my gosh, the time has flown by.
It totally flew by.
Swear to God, we could go on for hours. I definitely want to invite you to my podcast show, but we'll talk about that later.
Ditto.
Absolutely. And before we close out today, where can people get your free gift? I know you have a free gift, so tell us a little bit about that. Actually, the link will be underneath this video. So what is your free gift?
So the free gift, it's called Content Traffic Starter Sessions. I know it's a mouthful, but it's a 6 audio session with a PDF accompanying it. And I walk you guys through stuff. Again, I'm an audio geek and I'm a huge believer in audio lead magnets, just a side note. But it's going to walk you through sort of this everything is content. So you don't feel like you need to become a research expert or a keyword or Google master to start publishing, producing, and building an audience that resonates with you. So it's called Content Traffic Starter Sessions. The URL is below. And it's just, I'm pretty real, you guys. I think it's fun. I think you'll enjoy it, and you're going to get a ton of value out of it.
Yes, I love that. Yes, I encourage everyone to do that below the video, wherever you're watching or listening to this. And I just want to close this out. With each expert interview, you want to make sure that you create a plan. Hopefully you are taking notes, and you want to start creating your strategy, aligning your mind to your strategy on what you find works best for you. In this instance, you're talking about content, finding out what content is going to be the most connected with you. So Kim, again, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you, Heather. This has been a ton of fun. I can't wait to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, everyone, we're going to sign off here. And until next time, this is Heather Picken. I can't even talk. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this masterclass. Now, my question for you is, what are you going to do in the next 90 days? I want you to take action that is aligned with your ambitious goal. When I work with clients, I actually show them how to change the neuroplasticity of their brain. And part of the process is really understanding, what goal, what action that I want to take is actually in alignment with my vision and mission and purpose. So you want to make sure that you have that. My other ask is to consider doing the Fearless and Fabulous Female Bundle. That is an upgrade, and it's $97. It runs throughout the summit. The reason why that's important is, number one, it's going to accelerate the rate in which you start attracting your success with some of the strategies that these experts are offering you. Number two, it's actually going to support a cause called She Should Run. As I mentioned earlier, it's about getting 250,000 women running for office by 2030. As women, we are so powerful. And I believe we're really living in an interesting time that we can change the world with our work. So again, I hope you consider the Fearless and Fabulous Bundle, and I want you to take action, okay? I'm going to be checking up on you.